Hello everyone, this is a very short video on ketone bodies. You must have heard about ketone bodies. So let's start with ketone bodies. Um, what happens is, um, suppose you're in a starvation phase, like you haven't eaten for many days, few days, weeks. Then we talk about starvation. We'll discuss about it. Then comes your while you are suppose you are doing exercise, intense exercise, aerobic exercise, anaerobic exercise, whatever. But suppose in the case of exercise, yeah, we'll discuss about it. And the third one is your stress. When you're stressed, then also ketone bodies are produced. So the three things which I've talked about are first first of all is your while you do exercise, intense exercises. Second, in your starvation time, you haven't eaten, you are doing fasting, you haven't eaten for few days. And third is when you're in a stress level, you're stressed out. So in these three cases, ketone bodies are produced. And uh, other than all these three cases, major cases, note ketone bodies are usually even after 90 minutes. Suppose you have eaten high carbohydrate meal, yeah, fatty meal or whatever. Then after 90 minutes, 1 hour, ketone bodies are also produced. In that case too, yeah. So we shouldn't think about that like ketone bodies are most of the time produced just in three major cases, yeah. But the minor one is even after a heavy fatty meal or carbohydrate meal, the ketone bodies can be produced. So let's talk about ketone bodies. So what happens is, suppose let's take an example of exercise while you are doing intense exercises. So in intense exercises, what happens is, first of all, we must know exercise muscles in your body, they also have triglyceride, not just proteins. Triglycerides are also present in your not in your muscles, yeah, not comparatively to as much as present in your fats, adipose tissue, but also in your muscles they are present, triglycerides. So what happens is, suppose you do exercise, and exercise, as we know, exercise while exercise is under the influence of your norepinephrine, yeah. So your noradrenaline, your sympathetic, they all get stimulated. So once they get stimulated, these neurotransmitters, noradrenaline, epinephrine, yeah, or your like sympathetic nervous system, when that sympathetic pathways, when they get triggered, then what happens is the mobilization of this triglyceride happens, yeah. So the mobilization of this triglycerides happens in your muscles and even in your adipose tissue. So triglycerides are most of in large quantity. They are present in your adipose tissue, but also in muscles. So while you do intense exercise, what happens is, as we know, triglyceride is made up of glycerol and three fatty acids. Yeah, so triglyceride is nothing but it's to be major part. It is fatty acids. So we are talking about the mobilization of the fatty acids. Fatty acids mobilization either can be from fats of adipose tissue, for an example from your abdomen, or maybe from your muscles. So these fatty acids gets mobilized. These fatty acids, what happens is, since I said triglycerides are made up of your glycerol and three fatty acids. So what happens is, now mobilization means what? These three fatty acids and glycerol, they need to be transferred to your liver to make your ketone bodies. Now fatty acids, since it is a fat, it is hydrophobic, yeah. It is not lipophilic, it is hydrophobic. It is not hydrophilic, it is yeah, it is lipophilic, but it is not hydrophilic, yeah. Like it hates fat hates water. So blood is mostly water, so they can't be carried out in your bloodstream just like glycerol. Glycerol, since it is hydrophilic, um, it is a water component kind of, so it can travel easily in your bloodstream and reach to your liver. But fatty acid needs to travel through your bloodstream here. But fatty acid, to travel to your liver, it must be carried out with the help of albumin, which is a protein. So these fatty acids get attached to albumin, which is a transporter carrier. It attaches to your fatty acids and carries that fatty acids towards your liver. But glycerol itself, it can go easily and travel alone towards your liver. So this is how the mobilization of triglyceride happens. Yeah, fatty acid and glycerol, they need to be they are transported towards your liver, even from even from your adipose tissue, even from your even from your muscles. So this is what happens when you're uh, when you are doing exercises. The mobilization of triglyceride or fatty acids happens in this manner. Now, what happens is, but this exercise, that's why exercise is not a major component of producing ketone bodies. Like it can be, but it is not that major component, because what will happen after some times? Suppose you are doing intense exercise, and during intense exercise, your lactic acid will be produced. Yeah, and due to lactic acid, because of this anaerobic, because oxygen won't be remain over there, and anaerobic respiration, anaerobic pathway that will occur, and due to that lactic acid would be produced. And lactic acid, since it is a acid, it will decrease your pH, and this is a trigger for that inhibits your triglyceride lipolysis. Yeah, so after some time, this triglyceride present in your muscle won't get to break down into fatty acids and glycerol. Yeah, it won't get break down into fatty acids and into your glycerol, because that lactic acid produced after some time, after intense exercise, that will inhibit that process. Yeah, so few ketone bodies can be produced in the early phase, just because till the lactic acid hasn't built up. So this is about the intense exercise. uh, then same thing can happen while you are starving. Yeah, while during the fasting phase, after some time, this is because starvation, what happens is, your insulin would be decreased, and decreased insulin, that will trigger the breakdown of this triglyceride. Yeah, into, like, suppose from your adipose tissue, decreased insulin will trigger your breakdown of your triglyceride and your triglyceride into your into your glycerol and your fatty acids. But in exercise phase, it was noradrenaline or epinephrine that were causing breakdown of triglyceride into glycerol and fatty acid. Here, decreased insulin will trigger breakdown of triglyceride from your adipose tissue into glycerol and fatty acid. Same thing goes for when you're stressed out, then the increased cortisol plays a role in breaking down your triglyceride into fatty acid and your glycerol. So out of these three things, exercise, starvation, and your stress, what happens is triglyceride is breakdown into glycerol and fatty acid, and as I already mentioned, this glycerol and fatty acid would be transported towards your liver, because liver is the only place where the ketone bodies would be made, and in the mitochondria of the liver. Yeah, so ketone bodies would be made only in liver, and especially in the mitochondria of the liver. So now let's begin the phase of making ketone bodies. Now, as I already said, these fatty acids and glycerol would reach your mitochondria. Now, glycerol, what it would do is, role of glycerol would be, it would make gluconeogenesis. Yeah, it would make new glucose. Gluconeogenesis. Yeah, genesis means making of new glucose. Yeah, gluconeogenesis. So your glycerol, which came from triglyceride, yeah, which came from your triglyceride, would help in making new glucose. And of course, in the starvation phase, or in the when you need energy, you need glucose. Yeah, while you're stressed out, you need more glucose. So that's why in these phases, glycerol would be used to make new glucose. What about the fatty acids? Now, fatty acids, what will happen is, fatty acids, once they reach mitochondria, there's a process called beta oxidation. Yeah, beta oxidation, what that would do is, it will make break down fatty acids. It will, with the help of enzymes, many enzymes, few enzymes, what it would happen is, those fatty acids which came from your muscles or adipose tissue, that will make acetyl coenzyme and ATP, that will release acetyl coenzyme and ATP. That ATP again would be used to make glucose. Those ATPs can be used to make glucose, like the first process, gluconeogenesis. So ATP is used to make over there. What happens with the acetyl coenzyme, CoA? sorry, not coenzyme, acetyl CoA. What happens with the acetyl CoA? This is the main thing. This is the main thing that will make your ketone bodies. So now the third process comes, ketogenesis. Yeah, so the third process, the main important one to make ketone bodies, is the ketogenesis. Now what will happen? The acetyl CoA, which we talked about earlier, that acetyl CoA would be converted into three types of ketone bodies. Yeah, that acetyl CoA would be transferred, that would be converted into three types of ketone bodies. So these are three types of ketone bodies: acetoacetate, 3-hydroxybutyrate, and acetone. Yeah, so three of them. Out of these three ketone bodies which are made from the process of ketogenesis, acetone doesn't produce no ATP. It's useless. Yeah, so that's why it's a volatile substance. It's a kind of volatile. So that's why in the respiration it can be exhaled. That's why people with ketone bodies present in their bodies, ketoacidosis, you can smell sweetie smell. You can smell those smell of those people would smell sweet, and that's why you can have an idea that maybe those people are dehydrated or starvated, or too much ketone bodies are produced in their body. But this acetone doesn't help with no ATPs. These two, which are rest of the two ketone bodies, acetoacetate and 3-hydroxybutyrate, what they will do is these two would produce ATPs, and that these two would be used by our brain to use as a fuel. Yeah, because these two would produce ATPs, and instead of glucose, brain when the person is in a long period of starvation, brain after a few days would sensitize and would find out, like, this person is in the starvation phase and there are less glucose in produced in the body. There's a starvation and there's a less quantity of glucose. So instead of using glucose, brain would adapt in few days and start using these two ketone bodies. And this is how brain won't use glucose, because as it is, there's less glucose in the body during the starvation phase, or maybe maybe mainly in the starvation phase. So brain would adapt and turn into using ketone bodies, because brain knows, because those glucose would be necessary for other cells which can't use ketone bodies, because only the brain can use the ketone bodies as a fuel. Rest, your erythrocytes, your red blood cells, and many other cells, they won't be able to use ketone bodies. So brain, what it would do is, it would leave the remaining glucose to be used by these erythrocytes, these red blood cells, RBCs, instead of using ketone bodies. So this is how ketone bodies are used. And one thing about the ketone bodies is, ketone bodies when produced, they are acidic in nature. So of course, when they are too much, because and once they are produced in the ketone, these ketone bodies, once they are produced in liver, they are thrown into your blood back, and from blood they are reaching your brain. So when they are in blood, too much of this liver is producing too much of ketone bodies. Of course, that will make your blood pH less, and that's not a good thing. Yeah, so your ketonemia, yeah, too much ketone bodies, acidic, your blood will become acidic, and then your kidney also won't be able to kidneys will also start liberating these ketone bodies. That's why your urine would also be your much more acidic, and it would be ketonuria would be there. Yeah, so this is important. Ketone bodies are acidic in nature, so that's not a good thing to be present in your body, in your blood. So that's all. Thank you.